Hello, everyone, and welcome to EDU 504 Disciplinary Literacy, Instruction, and Leadership. I'm Dr. P, and I'm eager to learn with and from each of you this term. I'm a social studies teacher that is currently serving as the principal of Boonesboro Elementary School in Richmond, Kentucky. I've trained thousands of teachers in disciplinary literacy across Kentucky, and I'm excited to work with you all this term. Please never hesitate to reach out should you have any questions. This module has one chapter and two videos for you to watch. This lecture is intended to tie all of those together. After viewing, you can complete your reading check and discussion board posts for the week. Initial posts for the discussion board are due by Thursday, and then all remaining responses and assignments will be due by Saturday at midnight. I want to begin this module with a simple but powerful shift in thinking, one that will frame everything we do in this course. For years, schools have asked the general question, can students read? And it's what drives a lot of our instruction forward. But disciplinary literacy works to ask a far more precise and demanding question. What are students able to read well, and in what disciplines? That shift from general reading ability to discipline-specific reading practice is the heart of this course. Let's start with what many of us already know, especially if you've already watched the video. In the Scarborough's Reading Rope video, Hollis Scarborough, if I can speak, presents reading as the weaving together of two major strands, language comprehension and word recognition, and I've included that graphic here on the screen. Each of those strands includes smaller strands, background knowledge, vocabulary, syntax, verbal reasoning, phonological awareness, decoding, sight recognition. Over time, these strands become increasingly strategic and automatic, and that rope begins to tighten. And then skilled reading emerges. This model is powerful because it reminds us that reading is not one skill. It is a coordinated act of multiple interacting systems. But here's the key question for our course. What happens after the rope is strong? This model explains how students learn to read words and construct meaning from the text, but it does not fully explain how students learn to read like historians, like scientists, like mathematicians, or whatever discipline it could be. And that is where disciplinary literacy begins. In the video, What is Disciplinary Literacy? Timothy Shanahan makes an important distinction. He explains that disciplinary literacy is not simply content area reading as we've been teaching it for years. It's not just applying general comprehension strategies across subjects. Instead, it's about engaging with text the way experts in a discipline create, communicate, and evaluate knowledge. For example, a historian doesn't read a textbook as a set of neutral facts. They read it as an argument. A scientist doesn't read a lab report as a story. They read it as a structured claim supported by evidence and method. A mathematician doesn't read a word problem as a narrative. They read it as a logical structure requiring precise interpretation of symbols and relationships. So while Scarborough helps us understand how students learn to read, Shanahan challenges us to ask, how do students learn to read through a disciplinary lens? The chapter introduces a developmental model from Timothy Shanahan and Cynthia Shanahan that outlines three growth phases: basic literacy, or the idea of decoding and foundational comprehension; intermediate literacy, or applying general strategies across texts; and then finally, disciplinary literacy, or those specialized reading and writing practices that are unique to each field and discipline. Most educational attention has historically focused on the first two. The assumption, sometimes called the inoculation mentality, has been that if we teach students to read well in elementary school, they will automatically be able to handle increasingly complex texts later. But the research and assessment data discussed in the chapter, such as the trends from NAEP The National Assessment of Educational Progress suggests otherwise. Students may decode fluently, they may summarize effectively, they may answer general comprehension questions, but many struggle when texts require things like evaluating evidence, or interpreting discipline-specific structures, or understanding how knowledge is constructed in a field, or recognizing argumentation patterns unique to a discipline. In other words, they have the rope, but they don't yet have the disciplinary lens. Another major theme in the chapter is identity. Students don't just learn skills, they develop identities. They may see themselves as good readers, or not math people, or science outsiders, or history insiders. But this chapter argues that literacy success is deeply intertwined with academic identity. When students begin to see themselves as the kind of person who can think like a scientist or argue like a historian, their reading shifts. Disciplinary literacy is not just about strategy instruction, it is about apprenticeship. The sawmill story in the chapter illustrates this beautifully. The author didn't become a skilled sawyer simply by watching or memorizing steps. He was mentored. He observed expert thinking. He practiced with scaffolding. He gradually assumed responsibility. That model, as we frequently call in education the gradual release of responsibility, is foundational to disciplinary literacy instruction. Students need modeling of expert thinking, supported practice, collaborative scaffolding, gradual independence. They need access to what experts think while reading, not just what experts know. This course is built around one central conviction. If we want deeper learning in secondary classrooms, we must teach students how knowledge works inside the disciplines. Disciplinary literacy shifts instruction from just basically covering content to teaching students how to engage with the ways that content is produced, debated, and communicated. Really, we're working to reframe literacy from a set of generalized skills that we teach to teach comprehension to a contextually dependent practice, moving us from how well do you read to what can you read well and how do you read it. Over the coming weeks, you will analyze the literacy demands of your discipline, examine how experts in your field construct and communicate knowledge, and reflect on your own disciplinary identity. Design instruction that mentors students into insider practices, and you'll be reflecting on your professional practice. You will not be asked to become a reading teacher in the traditional sense. Instead, you'll be asked to think like a disciplinary mentor. I'll leave you with this question. If Scarborough's rope builds the capacity to read, and disciplinary literacy builds the capacity to read like an insider, what responsibility do we have as disciplinary experts to apprentice students into our ways of thinking? That question will guide us all semester. Welcome to EDU 504. I'm excited to begin this journey with you. As you finish up your module, don't forget to get your discussion board posted and get your chapter 1 reading check done. I love disciplinary literacy. As you can see, I'm a little passionate about it. And if there's at any point you have any concerns or questions, never hesitate to reach out to me. Let's learn well together.